Hey, it's Tony is Right. I am here with my more videos for my first semester in my MFA program. So I did like the recap. Now I'm going to talk about my portfolio and how I built it and kind of what we were going for with it. So I had two courses last semester. One was a creativity class in general, creativity as in just expression and opening up. And then I had my poetry class that I had to take. It's mandatory for your concentration. So I took the two mandatory courses to start the program off for my concentration and just the program in general. So the poetry course that I had, we had a lot of reading to do, like writing, talks, discussion. So we did a little bit of reading. I talked about the books in the previous videos. We did workshops, and then at some point we were transitioning to like the portfolio. So essentially the portfolio was all of the poems that you had written, and he was very liberal with how much you had to keep of your previous poem. So he, the professor, allowed us to completely rework the poem if we saw fit, and if we did not, if it didn't fit with our portfolio. But we did have to have like, I guess like all of the weeks that we had. Like, so if we had like 11 weeks worth of poems that we had to submit, then we needed 11 like poems. But those poems could be reworked, completely gutted, as we saw fit. And so that was like really good because I ended up gutting like a bunch of poems. So we had until like the week after our actual class ending to submit everything. So I think we ended on like the 6th or something like that. We had until like the 13th, 14th to like fill in it. I did it up until the like 13th, 14th. And then break would officially start, right? It started after that last class, but you had up until that time. So we had to have like the cover like page or whatever. It didn't have to be designed. It just had to have the title, your name, the course, blah, blah, blah. Then you had to have like a little introduction explaining like your process or what this was about. And then like maybe if you wanted to explain how you ordered it, stuff like that, why you put it in sections, blah, blah, blah. And then you had to also have like a table of contents. So you did have to like organize it like that. And then you had your poems and you had to number each page and do all that stuff. So I ended up having a pretty decent portfolio. I mean, I passed the class with an A, so that was good. My portfolio largely, hold on, let me get it. Get my laptop here. I'm gonna like try and learn how to do the you know how like when you're online and you're like looking like you're looking through websites and stuff like that, but you're on the camera still. I guess it's a function of your webcam, but I'm not advanced. Sometimes I feel like I'm not like you would think like being 30 and being like kind of online offline that I would be like more, I don't know, like accustomed to the changes of like technology, but I'm just like not, and more understanding of the technology. So let me go to my portfolio. And so like my name, stuff like that. So essentially we had 11 weeks worth of poems. I did not put them in the order that I did them. I just put them in the order that I felt like they flowed the best, and I tried to put some of the stronger works at the end as well. So the poetry process, before we get here, hold on. The poetry process, we had a poetry process paper, and so we had to pick like, I'm going to turn this away because it's glare. We had like 2 or 3 people. We had to pick 2 or 3 people, poets, or writers, but really poets, that we were interested in and how they influenced our work. And I chose Pablo Neruda, and I chose Sappho, and I have Sappho's book. So it's this translation specifically, If Not Winter, Fragments of Sappho by Anne Carson. And this was the main one. Like, I love Pablo Neruda's questions. I think that the questions are very thought-provoking, very interesting. We had a little bit of controversy in my creativity class because like his like real life was far from romantic, and he's not necessarily in the contemporary lens a writer that people may aspire to, particularly in Latin America, particularly with like Latin American women, because of his beliefs and some of the things that he has done in his past or had done in his past. So he didn't age well as a figure in writing, but I think his writing aged well enough. So we had to do a process paper, and Pablo Neruda was one of my inspirations. The other inspiration was Sappho. And the reason why I chose this translation was because they bracketed things. So if you don't know, Sappho was on the island of Lesbos with around 630 BC, they said. So essentially she wrote poems. None of them except one exists as a whole. And there's many translations of her work, but I chose Anne Carson's because of the brackets. And so the brackets kind of are this, like, you can fill in the blank. You could leave it as it is. Which way, you know? So like literally like fragments of her work exist. So we have the Greek and then we translate it, right? And then you have like brackets like this. So you can look at, you can see it, right? And so this got me thinking, literally, that's it. That's the poem. But the reason why I focused so much on this was because I started to think about something we discussed early in class, like our professor was like, if you put it into one of those like word searches or those pictogram machines that show you the most commonly used words, do you want the words that are the largest to be like the, and, it? Do you want those words to be the largest because that means that the real estate on the page is being taken up by that, and you know, by extension your poem is being held up by those words. And if you were to take that away, how much stronger could your work be? And also you're not relying on like articles and stuff like that to like bolster your work. Like, it's not filler. Like, this is a poem. You only have so much time. You're probably not going to write a 40-page poem in your lifetime. You may, but you probably aren't going to be doing that consistently, right? Like, you have a page and a half, maybe 2 pages, and you want to just like get in and get out, and you want to reduce some of that clutter. And so this really got me thinking, if someone saw my work 100 years, 200 years, 3,000 years into the future, and only fragments of it existed, would it be worth publishing still, right? Like, would they need the entire poem to figure it out, right? Like, if the original, you know, if the paper burned up and you had all the burned circles on it and it was like one word, would that one word be it? And you just like, time. Like, the time I took for this, and that's it. So it really made me focused on words and lines, and was I saying what I wanted to say, and was I taking up the page with filler, and if I was, how to cut it out. So I ended up writing for the section in my portfolio. I said, let me first just say that this has been quite a stressful yet rewarding project to undertake. I found this portfolio to be eye-opening regarding my poetry interests. The poem I had the most fun with was Blue Picasso's. So, and I've submitted that to like places now. I'm like actually kind of proud. I discovered a love of ekphrastic poetry through this poetry assignment and will continue to write more of these. For this project, I made quite a bit of revisions for the poems I wrote during the course. The most drastically changed poems were the ones from earlier in the semester. With my defenses down, I've been able to write poetry that conveys what I think and feel, unashamed of what is being said. These earlier poems are also the poems I believe required the most introspective before competing, and I'm pleased at what I stripped away to reveal. In revising, I questioned whether I was saying what I wanted to at a pace that moved the poem's lines along. I didn't want a big reveal at the end of the poem, but did want it to feel complete to me. Another thing to note for my process is that I began to experiment with the visual form of these poems. This will be more noticeable in I'm Now the Black Sheep My Uncle Used to Be and Last Places to Look for Souls. I wanted to weave time and space together for both poems. We don't stay in one scene, so to speak, and that is reflected in the visual structure. The poetry here carries themes of heritage, religion, spirituality, sex, relationships, and introspection. I found that these are the core themes I enjoy discussing and writing about. Lastly, there will be cussing in here, just saying. And then I went into my poems. So the average poem in my portfolio was like a page, like a full page. The longer ones, one of these is like 4 pages long, and that's because I structured it and it's double spaced and stuff like that. I experimented a lot with the poetry as far as like the line structures. So the last poem in my portfolio is actually, I was actually inspired by like episodic writing and like screenwriting or playwriting, and I started to kind of play with the structure of having that little aside for like directions or something like that, and I started to get into visually making poetry like that. And I think I will try to like make poetry plays, so to speak. That's something that I'm interested in with a book that I have. And yeah, like I'm just very interested in what I was able to explore and convey. My portfolio took a long time. It took the whole day of the 13th. I had worked on most of the poems, but it was just like a few that I really wanted to think about. And so I had to like change the structure and blah blah blah. I will do like a video on me reading like maybe 2 of my poems, and then I'll do a video reading like 2 of my poems that I put in a portfolio when I applied, and you'll kind of like see how they're like a little bit different. But I have like submitted one of my portfolio, like application portfolio, for to get into the actual program. I have submitted that again somewhere, and hopefully it gets republished, because it was published once, and then like I think the journal like shut down kind of, so I wanted it to be published again, because it's so funny. Like the month that I was selected for, when you go on the website and you go to click on it for the PDF, it doesn't pull up. Every other month but the month that mine is on pulls up, and the month that mine is on, it's like an error message that you get or some shit, and I'm just like, no one can ever see this, like no one can ever see it. So I just like submitted it somewhere else, and hopefully it gets seen and it gets picked and people can read it again, because I enjoyed writing that. I do have a lot of things about heritage and memory, intangibility of memory, the tangibility of like life, like things you can feel, relationships, sex, just thinking in general. Those are the large things that I have, and I like experimental forms. So I am someone who am not interested in the square, I guess, when it comes to poetry, or the little block. I'm interested in like the block that slants over, that has like crossfades. Like I'm very interested in like visual movement on a page, and I think it's just because like I went to like a magnet high school, so I like did like engineering type things. Like I'm interested in space, like space. I'm interested in like museum curation and moving through space. So I'm not necessarily static. One of my ideas for my thesis involves like curation, and so you would think I'm getting an MFA in fine art, but I'm not. But I'm just interested in that kind of stuff. So anyway, that was my portfolio. Building up to it, the things that I was interested in, I will do like an actual reading of like 2 of my poems, and then I'll actually, like I said, go and I gotta find my portfolio that I put together to even submit to this. I gotta find it, and then I'll read like both of them, and you can see like maybe how I've grown, if you can notice that. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.